So many people are now becoming anti-morning routine. I see my good friend Alex Hormozi talking about, hey, all this morning routine stuff is stupid. Just wake up and work. That's the best routine. And I don't agree with that because that's not what I do. What's going on? It's Ryan Pineda. Welcome back to another episode of the Wealthy Way podcast, where our mission is to help you not go broke trying to get rich. Now, as I have actually gotten rich, I have adapted my morning routine. It's been one of the staples that I always promote because it's helped keep me centered on a lot of different areas of life, right? And what's interesting is my morning routine has changed over the years. You know, I started a morning routine back when I was kind of broke and still flipping couches, and I've maintained a routine to this day where obviously I've got a lot of different businesses, 6 of them doing over 7 figures. We've got a big real estate portfolio. So business is a lot more chaotic these days, but I also have a family now. You know, I've got my 4-year-old son, James, my 2-year-old Olivia, been going on year 10 of marriage. And so as, you know, life goes on, your morning routine changes. Like my kids aren't going to school yet, but I know once they start going to school, they're going to, you know, impact what I do as my morning routine, especially when they start waking up earlier. So what I want to do in this episode is, number one, tell you why the morning routine is important, because so many people are now becoming anti-morning routine. Like I see my good friend Alex Hormozi talking about, hey, you know, all this morning routine stuff is stupid. Just wake up and work. That's the best routine. And I don't agree with that because that's not what I do, right? I think it's led to a lot of success I've had, and I'll go into why you should have one in this video. But also, too, my routine has changed as time has gone on. And so I want to talk to you about what it looked like when I was broke and flipping couches and why I even started one in the first place, and how it has evolved over the years, because it's always changing. And, you know, it's really just being dictated on what my life is at that point in time and kind of what I'm feeling I need at that point in time. So let's just jump right into it. First off, as far as why you should do a morning routine, for me anyways, I like to wake up early because I know that's the time for me. Like if I'm going to go be out into the world and I'm going to make videos, I'm going to go and lead people, I'm going to be in meetings, I'm going to, you know, be with my kids and serving my family. Like that's not me time. That's me pouring out into other people. Making this video is energy I have to deplete to, you know, pour out to my audience. And so at what point do you get filled and energized? And for me, that's in the mornings. I know that when I'm in the mornings by myself, that's time for me to get filled and energized. And so I truly believe it's the best time. And, you know, there's a lot of people who say, well, okay, what if I do that at night? Like, you know, part of my morning routine is working out, which we'll get into. They're like, I like to work out in the afternoons or night. And I'm like, you can, that's great. Like, you know, at the end of the day, as long as you're working out at any point, I'm happy. I think everyone should work out. That's, you know, the H in the wealth acronym, but, which is health, by the way. But I also think that you get a lot more benefits working out in the morning because you get endorphins. You know, have already accomplished something before you've ever set out during the day. And so I personally just like doing it much more in the morning than, you know, other people might say. So it's things like that where all the things I'm going to tell you, you could do them throughout the day, but I just like doing it all in the morning because if I can accomplish all these different things that are for me, I know that my cup is filled and I'm able to go fill the cups of others throughout the day. So that's the reasoning for this. I think all successful people do the things I'm going to tell you about. Some just happen to do it at different times. So let's talk about a morning routine, why I even started, when I started, and all that. So I first really got into the morning routine thing back in 2015-ish. Might have been early 2016. But I was actually watching Bigger Pockets podcast, and I think they had a guy named Hal Elrod on talking about his book called The Miracle Morning. And, you know, he just talked about the benefits of how he really looked forward to his morning routine and how, you know, it was amazing. And he had developed this process and everything else. And I was like, that's great. I'm going to try it out, you know, because he had, dude, honestly, it was so long ago, I can't even remember what his pitch was, but I was just like, I'm in, let's do it. So I read his book, and basically his morning routine was an hour, and it had 6 different aspects to it. And so what he did was these 6 different things, 10 minutes each morning. And, I looked at it and I was like, okay, so, he spends like 10 minutes doing journaling and stuff. He spends another 10 minutes working out, which, is definitely not enough. But, there was all these elements. I don't even remember all of them at this point. But I remember looking at it and saying, okay, let me tweak this the way that I believe I need it in my life, okay? The one thing I hadn't been doing at that point was journaling. So I never had been a journal guy. I had never been a guy who wrote things he was grateful for, because I'm like, that's stupid. That's super lame. Like that stuff doesn't work. But I was like, I'm going to give it a try. So first thing I decided was, hey, I'm going to get a journal and I'm going to start just journaling. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm just going to buy a journal and wing it. The second thing that I decided that I had already done, but sporadically, was pray and read my Bible. So, growing up in the church and as a Christian, I always known that, hey, you got to spend time with God. You've got to pray. You've got to read your Bible, become familiar. And, I've been good about it, but there was never a consistency to it. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to make this part of my morning routine. Like, I want to be spiritually fed and build my relationship with God in the mornings. And, make sure I do that because I can control that, right? Like what happens is a lot of these things I'm going to tell you, if you say, hey, I'll do it at night or at the end of the day, at the end of the day, you're already tired from a long day of work. Maybe you spent time with the kids and everything else. And so by the time you do it, it now becomes more like a chore of like, oh man, I forgot I got to go read my Bible. Oh man, I forgot I got to go pray. Or these other things like, oh man, dude, I do not want to work out. Like I'm not feeling good, but I got to go do it. It becomes a chore. Whereas in the morning, it's not a chore for me. Like I enjoy doing it. Like I'm full of energy and ready to roll. And it's just planned into my day. And I have no excuses at that point because I haven't like exerted any energy on this other stuff from work and everything else. So anyways, I said, hey, okay, I'm going to start journaling. I'm going to start reading my Bible and praying. And, I've always worked out and, I've always liked working out in the morning. So I'm going to go to the gym in the morning and work out for an hour. And, that was basically it. At the end of the day, when I first started this around 2015, 2016, I had just flipped a few homes. I was still flipping couches at the time to give myself my disposable, basically our living expenses, because all my flipping money was getting reinvested into the next flip. I was still playing professional baseball at this time. So, I was still 6 months out of the year gone and playing baseball. That year in 2015, I was in New Jersey and Fargo, and then 2016 I was in Fargo again, Fargo, North Dakota. So, it all just kind of coincided with like the rise of myself as an entrepreneur because I just started to really get my mindset changed in 2015, right? That was when I first started flipping houses, and I'm like, look, I want to be the best entrepreneur I can be. Let me listen to podcasts and see what other successful people do because I'm currently not anywhere close to any of these guys' levels. And so the morning routine was one of those things I picked up and I said, okay, successful people do this. Let me try it. And so that year, it was just a lot of trial and error, right? Like the praying and the reading the Bible, I knew what to do. I started just reading a chapter a day in the Bible. That was it, just one chapter. And as far as prayer goes, I didn't really have a way to pray. I was just like, I'm going to pray for like 5 minutes, okay? So, that took me like 15 minutes of what you would call faith time, right? Then for the journaling, I didn't really know what to do. I was just like, well, I'm going to, just write some things I'm grateful for. So I started writing just like 3 things I was grateful for. I then just started writing out like tasks and things I had to do that day. I was like, all right, well, I guess these are the things I got to do today. Let me like write them down and visualize myself doing them and succeeding and all that stuff. And then I started to write goals. So at the time, I didn't really know how to set goals, and I would just write like these goals of things I wanted. So it was more so like a vision board than like an actual goal. I'd be like, yeah, I want to buy a Tesla, or I own a Tesla, or whatever the big goal was at that time. And I think that was more so like on the, I forget what they call it, but like manifestation or visualization part. And I was like, hey, if I write this down, it's going to happen, and I still believe like you should do things like that. But I think my intentions were like, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm like, well, if I write it, it's magically going to happen because I'm just putting it out there, which I don't necessarily believe anymore. But nonetheless, that's what I was doing. And so that took me like 10 minutes and then, my morning time. So it's like my morning routine at that point was like around 30 minutes on that point. And then I would go drive to the gym, work out for an hour. And that was it. At the end of the day, my morning routine took me about an hour and a half. And then if you count drive time, about 2 hours. And so I would wake up, I want to say at like 6 o'clock, maybe 6:37. That's where I was at that time. Probably 7, honestly. I woke up at about 7, did all my stuff, went to the gym around 8 o'clock and got done at 9, came back and, around 10 o'clock, I'd start my day. That was how I did it. So that was the first version. And I probably did that version for about 3 years. Well, it was around 2019 when I started kind of like the second version of what my morning routine would become. It was during this time that I'd now been journaling for years. I'd already had a ton of success as a real estate guy. I had my first child, James, at this time, and we went through a ton of problems with him. He was born 2 months premature, and he spent 60 days in the NICU. He had all these developmental delays. We didn't know if he was going to live, and my perspective started to change because I went from a guy who had all the business success in the world. I'd become a millionaire before I was 30. People, thought very highly of me. And, I just remember going through the struggles with him that none of it mattered. The fact that my son could have died and, I had to go through that possibility. I was just like, none of this even matters. And so I started to think about what does matter in my life. Like, what am I truly passionate about? And what makes life purposeful? And, if this money thing isn't as purposeful as I thought, and it is purposeful, like we all need money, but like what really matters? And so I started to contemplate this question. And I ended up coming up with the first version of the wealth acronym called RAISE. And so RAISE stood for relationships, R for relationships, assets, intellect, spirit, and exercise. That was the 5. And so I started to just like promote this idea of raise. And I was like, guys, we got to raise up, we got to set our goals based on this RAISE acronym. R for relationships. What kind of relationship goals do I have? A for assets. What are my business goals, financial goals? I for intellect. Hey, what am I going to do to increase my, knowledge and education? S for spirit. What am I going to do spiritually? And then E for exercise. What am I doing health-wise, right? So that was the first version of all of this before the wealthy way was a thing. Like I had been thinking about this for a long time. And I started to write goals that way. So I had my RAISE goals. I would write 3 goals for the year in each of those. And I added that to my journal now. And so I was like, man, I want to start doing this. And so like what I would do was I had basically, so there's 15 goals, right? 3 goals in each. And I would write down all those for the year. And then every day I would just write down one of the goals. So I'd have RAISE, and then I would write like for relationship. I'd go look in the back of my journal and it would be like, okay, go spend this many date nights with Mindy. And so I'd write, hey, have a date night with Mindy. And the next one I'd do for assets. And so like I just got in the habit of writing my goals out to remember that these are the goals. And that was why I did it. So that was the next evolution for me was, hey, I want to start being intentional with my goals, and I want to set my goals in different places. At that point too, I also was starting to spend more time with God. So, I started to read more. My workouts remained about the same. And so, that was one of the big things. Eventually I did that for a year, and then I was like, okay, I want to make an even better planner. And so I created this Excel spreadsheet that, I called the RAISE Planner. And many of you, if you're an OG, you followed me way before any of this stuff, I put it out there on Instagram. I was like, hey, I created this planner. Anyone can have it for free. Like I made it for me, but anyone can have it for free. And so, I made this planner. I put it out there for free in, I think, 2020. And lots of people actually went through it and they told me they loved it. Like, it was super helpful. I created like all these formulas and calculations to see how often you hit your goals, and your habits. And, it was just this perfect digital document. And so I was like, this is great because I work way better digitally than I do just like physically writing all this stuff. I can see progress. It's amazing. So that's what I did. And it got great results. 2020 was, I think, also the first year I finally decided that, hey, I want to like read the Bible for an entire year, So I started getting on reading plans where, I would end up reading like 3 or 4 chapters a day in all these different parts of the Bible because I wanted to read the entire thing in a year versus just like 1 chapter a day. And there's no right or wrong way, by the way. I know lots of people who read just a couple of verses in a day, but they really chew on it and dwell on it and research and pray. And so like, that's totally cool. But I decided at that time that I wanted to go and read the entire thing. And so my morning routine at that point, I think I was doing about 6 a.m. in the morning. And, I'd shower, I'd wake up, I'd go shower, I'd jump right in, do my digital planner, check on my goals, all that stuff. I would read about 4 chapters of the Bible. I'd pray for about 10 minutes and, that became my thing. And then, after that I'd go work out. So, it was kind of the same thing. It just, my time got a little bit longer now. So, I would go leave for the gym at about 8 o'clock, 8 to 9, go work out, come back 9 to 10, get ready, go to the office at 10. So, from 6 to 10, essentially, I woke up at 6, I got to the office at 10, I was doing all the stuff that was just for me, showering, working out, spending time with God, writing down my goals, thinking about them, writing things I was grateful for, all that stuff. And I think a lot of that kept me very centered throughout a lot of the struggles I was having with James. Mindy got pregnant again very shortly after James. COVID happened. There's just like so many things that were happening in my life that were very difficult to deal with. But I truly feel like the morning routine and having that discipline is what kept me consistent despite all that stuff. And I was able to not really let any of it affect me because I was so internally growing very strong that all the external stuff didn't really matter. The Wealthy Way app is now available on all phones, both Android and Apple. Go check it out. It gives you access to everything in the wealthy world. That means access to our planner, which can keep track of all your goals and habits on a daily basis, access to our free courses, access to my book, The Wealthy Way, access to go watch the episodes of this podcast. You can join our Facebook community, and it can all be done from the app, which is absolutely free. So go download it right now while you're listening to this podcast. It's going to change your life. Go download it. WealthCon is coming to Hollywood. If you've ever been to any of my events, you know they're life-changing. We get the best speakers, we have the best venues, we have the best parties, after parties, and networking that you could imagine. I've met so many people who ended up becoming business partners of mine at my events. I've made great relationships, and the people who have attended have done the same. And so I want to see you at my next one in Hollywood, California, April 4th to the 6th. It's going to be absolutely incredible. We've got speakers like Chris Crone, Lewis House. We got Roe Built from Bigger Pockets. The list goes on and on. We have a huge lineup of speakers, and I want you to be there. So if you want to attend the event and learn more, go to wealthcon.org. Once again, you can go to wealthcon.org and go learn more about the event and register today. I do this for like 2020 and 2021. I do it again. And then what ended up happening was towards the end of 2021, I started golfing and I really enjoyed it. I was like, this is a fun sport. And so I was doing that. And then I started, I got my first tech team and all these guys, and I looked at them. I said, hey guys, here's this planner I created on Excel. If you guys could just like relabel it and make it part of this new thing I'm starting called The Wealthy Way, that'd be great. At that point, I had really realized the vision of what I wanted The Wealthy Way to be at the end of 2021. I had basically rebranded this RAISE concept into the wealth acronym, right? So we all If you follow me, I have an acronym called WEALTH that stands for worship, education, affluence, lifestyle, team, and health. And so, it's the same concept. We put goals, 3 goals in each. And, that's what the WEALTH acronym is. It's how to set goals to become truly wealthy. Well, I send them the thing, and they're like, dude, we can make this into an app, and we can make it into like a desktop thing, like way better than Excel. And I was like, well, the year's about to start. So this was like in the end of November when I was just finalizing all this stuff. I had created the Wealth Builder Academy. And by the way, all this stuff I'm telling you about, you can get for free at wealthyway.com. So go get it all for free. Because I kind of selfishly just made it for me, and it just became such a great tool for everyone else. But anyway, so we ended up, they said, yeah, dude, we can convert this into like a legit thing. And I'm like, dude, this will take like 6 months to do. I actually had somebody who tried to do it before because he was using the planner, my original Excel one. He was like, this is great. Let's make it into an app. And I'm like, dude, if you can make it into an app, great, you do it. He just never could do it. And these guys, as you now probably know, are just some of the best developers in the world. Shout out to Dylan and Daniel. And they were able to do it in a month. And I was like, wow, these guys are good. And since then, they've developed a ton of stuff for all of our companies. They've been the back end behind Tykes NFT and every other tech thing we've done. So this was their first like test. I was like, turn this thing into a legit, planner. And they did. And so it was amazing. And 2022 marked the year of using the Wealthy Way Planner as we know it today. Now in 2023, we have the Wealthy Way Planner app on mobile, which many people were asking for because 2022 was all desktop, and 2023, we finally got the mobile ready for them because they were busy working on all these other tech things. I knew I just wanted to like see how the desktop performed for a year using it myself and then make a mobile version for it. But anyways, so that year, 2022, I'm using the Wealthy Way planner. I'm still reading my Bible based on trying to read it for a full year, so about 4 chapters a day. I started praying for about 10 minutes a day. And, basically that whole routine took like, I would say like 45 minutes, okay? And I would still go to the gym and everything else. But the difference that happened was I wanted to become good at golf. I was tired of being a scrub. And so I was like, dude, I need to become good at golf. I need to practice way more. Like I want to practice every day. I want to go see my coach. I want to go to the range. My membership, I got a membership now. So I said, okay, I'm going to wake up an hour earlier so that I can practice and get this in. And so I went from, waking up at 6. That was kind of like my routine for the last few years. And I said, I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock. And so I started waking up at 5 o'clock and getting some practice in. Sometimes I would hit on the net. Sometimes I would, go to my coach. Sometimes I go to the range, whatever, right? I wanted to just wake up earlier to go practice golf. And sure enough, my golf score started to significantly get better because I was practicing. I went from a guy who started in the middle of 2021 to of regularly shooting 100 to being a guy who, my handicap, I don't know how accurate it is today, but it says I'm a 1. But, I haven't been playing as much lately. But nonetheless, I got a lot better at golf because I was just putting in the work every day. I just woke up an hour earlier so I could put in the work because it was important to me. So, anyways, like I just started waking up at 5, and then I just made the decision. I was like, you know what? Let's just take it up even another step. I'm going to wake up at 4:30 and get an extra 30 minutes in for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted to get to work a little earlier. Like, getting in at 10 had been fine for many years. I'm like, you know what? I think I should start getting in at like 9:30 or 9, like a normal job, right? So I wanted to get to work earlier, but also too, I wanted to start playing golf at the earliest time because that means there's no traffic or people in front of you. So you could play like a round in 2 hours. So even if I wasn't going to get to work early, if I could go play a round of golf in 2 hours, because I got there at, 7:15, 7:30 when they open, then I would love to do that. So that's basically what happened. I started waking up at 4:30. I would do the same exact routine, and I would end up getting my workout in at 6 o'clock, 6 to 7, and then basically I'm done with my old morning routine at 7, and it's just a matter of what do I want to do now. And so I could go to the course and practice or go play around. I could do more work if I wanted to. We actually ended up changing our Bible study, which had always been at nighttime, to Wednesdays at 7:30 in the morning. So now it's like on Wednesdays I did that. I did some other stuff with discipleship groups and all that. So like my morning routine has been definitely adapting. And one thing like I'm even thinking about today, well, actually too, I forgot, I started doing some fighting once a week. So I'd have a trainer come to my house and we would practice boxing and other things and all that. I got a pickleball court in my backyard now with our new house. And so like, I kind of want to practice pickleball and play. Like I want to be good at a lot of things. That's just how I am. But I also, this is another one. I want to learn a second language. So I want to learn Spanish and Tagalog. So, it's going to be one at a time. Spanish will be the first one I tackle. So it's like, when am I going to learn how to speak Spanish? Well, it's probably going to happen in the morning, right? And it's not like I can do all these things. I can't golf every day. I can't play pickleball every day. I can't fight every day. I can't learn, a new language every day, but I got to pick and choose when I want to do these things. Now, guess what? All of these things I'm explaining are like very like selfish, me-centered things, right? The faith-based stuff and the health and all that's not. Like, we need to do that. But do I need to play pickleball and golf and, like, learn a second language? No, not really. They're, like, just hobbies for me. The thing is, though, once the day starts, I'm not going to end up doing those things. I've got too much other stuff to do. I've got to go work at, all of our businesses. I've got to take care of my family when I get home. I got to do all these things. And so I know if I want to like acquire a new skill, I need to do it and fit into my morning routine. And that's exactly what I did with golf. And that's why I'm golfing less. It's like I got good enough to where I wanted to be. I don't need to be better. Like now at this point, my skill is where I want it. I just need to maintain and, play golf for fun, right? Could I be better at golf if I treated it like I had been? Yeah, but it's all good. Like I just want to enjoy the game now. So the other stuff, I want to learn skills, though. Like I want to learn how to fight because it's an important skill. I want to learn how to shoot guns. It's an important skill. I want to learn how to be a better pickleball player because it's just a fun game that a lot of my friends are doing. And I want to learn a second language because I want to challenge my mind. Plus, knowing Spanish is a very important skill, especially for just anything, really. Like it's the world's very diverse, and Spanish is a big part of that. So, yeah, like now as I go into 2023, I'm still waking up at 4:30. I'm now, thankfully, I have a home gym, so that actually saves me 30 minutes off my commute because before I had a commute to the gym, and so now I don't have that. And so, I still work out at 6, but it's in the home gym. So basically it gives me more time as part of my morning routine with God and everything else I want to do. So that's great. I also now write these devotionals on Instagram. So if you guys have seen my poached egg post of me and my breakfast every morning, it's like I mark the time to show people I'm doing my morning routine. Like if you don't believe me what I'm saying on the podcast now, go follow me on Instagram and you'll see the timestamp of my post and everything else. And you'll see my breakfast and the Bible open. And then basically I write this devotional of like whatever it is I learned that day from my readings and all that. And that takes me about 15 minutes to write because it's not something that just I got to really think about what I want to say. And so that's kind of like that 15 minutes I spent driving to the gym. I now just use it to write this devotional on Instagram. And I was kind of thinking that with that, I'm always like, man, how can I make this like better? And, I started taking some of those devotionals and making them into Instagram Reels and TikToks, and they've done really well. And I was kind of thinking like, if I do this for a year straight, like I basically could write a book. Like that could be a 365-day book of devotionals and like motivation and stuff. And that would be a cool thing. Like, why not? So, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. But my point is, okay, as I bring this all full circle, my morning routine has changed the last, call it 8 years, from how early I wake up to how much time I spend in certain areas, to the tools that I use, to the skills and things I want to acquire. I think the main takeaway that I've had 8 years doing it is, number one, it is very important to fill your cup before, thinking you're able to fill others. I think that just waking up and working is not the right thing. I think that you're kind of losing the benefit of all these other things. I think working out in the morning is great because it just gives you energy for the rest of the day. I think spending time with God in the morning is great because it transforms your mind and it makes how you treat people differently throughout the day, right? Because you just spend all this time learning and thinking about the stuff. It's like when I write those devotionals, I think about that. And I'm like, man, okay, how do I apply this to the rest of the day? Versus if you do this stuff at night, you just basically are now kind of going to bed and you didn't really get to apply it. And the odds of remembering it the next day and then applying it are much lower, right? Versus it in the morning and fresh on your mind. So I just think that the morning routine is amazing in that front. I think that as I've gotten more successful and wanted to do more, I've woken up earlier. I thought at one point the 4:30 in the morning thing would be maybe temporary, but as I've done it, I'm just like, you know what? Like, this is when I like waking up. And who knows? Maybe one day I might wake up earlier. I don't know. It's not, and by the way, 4:30 is just on the weekdays. On the weekends, I sleep in. I mean, and sleeping in could mean various things. The other day I slept until 7. The other day I slept until 5:30. Like it really just depends when I go to bed. Which actually brings up a good point I forgot to mention. John Acuff on one of my podcasts. I'll link to that one after this one. It was such a good podcast. One of my favorites I've ever done. But he basically talked about this concept of like the second morning and really or the pre-morning. I forget what he called it, but basically the morning really starts the night before, because if you don't go to sleep at the right time, the rest of your morning is jacked up, right? If you drink you get drunk or whatever at night, your morning is ruined. You stay up too late, you're not getting enough sleep, your morning's ruined. And so if you want to have a successful morning routine and you want to conquer the day, it all starts the night before. And so, yeah, this is very important in developing your morning, is thinking about the night before. And so for me, for anyone interested, I do, wake up at 4:30. I try to go to bed at 10. That's about if I go to bed at 10, I'm good, right? That means I slept 6.5 hours. I'm good. If I go to bed at 10:30, I'm still good. 6 hours is fine. If I go to bed past 10:30, say 11, I can feel it. I'm like, man, I am noticeably more tired. And there are days where I go to bed early too. I fall asleep at 9:30, 9. I don't know that I feel necessarily different getting more sleep like that, but I mean, there are days where it happens. I'll just be watching TV with Mindy and we fall asleep. So yeah, I think, the morning routine's interesting. I think that as I've become more successful and I've got more on my plate now with kids and more businesses, I've found that I have to wake up earlier. And I've also learned to operate very effectively on less sleep. And I think that your body can adapt. Everyone's body's different, but assuming you're a very healthy person and you're working out and you're, happy and you're not super stressed, I think that you can get by on less sleep if you train yourself to do it. But everyone's different. So I'm not a sleep expert, but for me, it's worked out very well. And, it's not like I want to sleep less. I just feel really good sleeping about 6 to 6.5 hours. That's all I need. So I might as well, wake up earlier and do the things that I want to do, learn new skills, spend time with God, work on my health, do things that are going to help me sleep. That extra hour of sleep's not going to help me compared to those other things. So I'd rather do those things. So it's changed. Where will it be in time? These next 3 years, I would guess it's going to change. The moment my kids start waking up earlier, I'm going to have some choices to make because I love my alone time with no one around me. You know, my wife Mindy sleeps in very late. You know, she sleeps until like 8. So by the time she wakes up, I've been up for like 3.5 hours just doing stuff. So I enjoy that. I don't like want to hang out with her at 4:30. She don't want to hang out with me. Like I need that time alone. And the same is true of my kids. You know, my kids, they wake up around like 8 o'clock right now. So it's great. Same deal. Mindy and them wake up and they do their thing and I'm done. But the moment they start waking up at like 6 and all this stuff, like that's going to kind of impact what I do. So I don't know how I'm going to navigate that. We're going to see. You know, also too, the good part for us is we're homeschooling. So, you know, as far as like taking the kids to school, I ain't got to do it. So I'll walk them downstairs and it's great. So I'm super excited about homeschool from that aspect, selfishly, that I don't have to go take them to school like other people do. So selfishly, I like that. But yeah, I think morning routine is something you guys need to decide what's going to work for you. You have time, by the way, right? You can operate with less sleep, I promise you. And you can go to sleep earlier. You just have to make it a priority. You know, wake up an hour earlier and get your routine in. Preferably 2 hours earlier. You wake up 2 hours earlier and you can go get all these things in that I talked about. Use your Wealthy Way planner. You know, go to wealthyway.com. You can go get it for free. You can go on the App Store and download Wealthy Way app and, you know, get the planner. Like that'll guide you through everything in your morning routine. And then I encourage you to go work out and spend time with God and all that too every morning. I think that will lead to a ton of success, a ton of development, fulfillment, and it will allow you to pour into other people throughout the day. And it's worked for me. I have no intention of stopping it. It is not a chore. It is not like something I dread. I wake up in the mornings excited to do it. It's honestly my favorite part of the day. Like, I kid you not. I enjoy this part of the day way more than I enjoy filming this video or holding a meeting or doing something that might make me money. Like, I enjoy my alone time and my routine. And so I think you find to like it too as time goes on and you start to see the fruit from it. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. Definitely, if you're interested in learning more about the second morning and some other great stuff, I'm going to link to this episode with John Acuff right here. If you just click this video on YouTube, you can go see it and catch you on the next episode. Thanks for watching. See ya.